everyone. I'm Casey Tierney. I'm on the investment team here at the LegalTech Fund. Welcome to In Studio with Priori. Joining me today are the co-founders, Basha and Mirra. Thank you both for joining us. It's great to have you back.
Thanks. So nice to be here. Thanks for having us.
For those tuning in, Priori is not just transforming how legal teams find, engage, and manage outside counsel. It's revolutionizing it, connecting them with the right talent at the right price for any need. Last time we spoke, we focused a bit more on Priori's origin story and foundational vision. Today, we're digging into the details, what's working, what's next, and how the legal marketplace is evolving. Are you all ready?
So ready. They're ready. Let's do it.
So first, let's go back a little bit. How did Priori grow from a law school idea into a platform used by Fortune 10s and the fastest growing tech companies?
That's a long story, Casey. I'll try and give you the shortest version possible. Mirra and I met as classmates at Yale Law School. We had an idea that we could build something akin to an Uber for legal services, helping small businesses and individuals find excellent fixed fee legal services via an online marketplace. We tried that business. It didn't quite work. Got traction with actually larger companies who already had in-house counsel, who were trying to reduce their overall outside counsel spend, identify local counsel and niche expertise, ultimately pivoted upmarket. And we kept on going more and more and more upmarket. So as you say, today we're working with multiple Fortune 10 companies, and really everything in between, a Series A startup and a Fortune 10 company, to help them manage and reduce their outside counsel spend using a global vetted network of attorneys and legal operations professionals in all 50 states and more than 70 countries, and then also providing them with powerful tech tools to help them manage their existing outside counsel relationships, drive more work to AFAs and overall right source and save money using panel management, RFP, and lots of data on lawyers and law firms.
Awesome. It's not always easy to go up market like you have, all the way to, really the very top end. So congrats on that. I'm curious, are there internal metrics that best capture your growth and impact, or any data points that motivate you personally?
I think that I can take it first, and then maybe Mira, you can jump in. But I think we spend a lot of time talking about the client side of our marketplace, because, well, that's who pays us. And so naturally focus there. But if the question is what motivates me personally, it is the careers that we've been able to provide for our lawyer network. We work with over 8,000 lawyers and various degrees of engagement, but our top lawyers are making over seven figures with us on an annual basis. Their career is through Priori, and I think the metrics around, the wallet share that we're capturing in terms of the annual salary, or not salary, that's the wrong word, how much our lawyers are earning on an annual basis, is something that I personally find to be a very powerful motivator on the talent side. And as we scale up the RFP business, it's sort of the amount of work that's being RFP'd through the platform and the amount of work that the law firms are winning.
Yeah, I think just on the motivation front too, one of the things we've tried to bring from our, small startup days is a user interface that's really easy to use and feels delightful, and is the kind of technology that people enjoy using as they're trying to do very difficult things with the technology. And so I think some of the motivation factors for us are definitely hearing that that's working, as Basha said, both for the clients who are purchasing the software, but also for the lawyers for whom it really needs to work too, right? If they're coming to the marketplace, it needs to be easy for both sides. If they're here for the software, it has to be easy for both sides. And it's that ease of use delight that really motivates me day after day.
That's great. And would you say there's specific metrics that energize your team or sort of reinforce that vision that you all are tracking?
Well, we have three top level KPIs that we use for the company that we used in 2025. We simplified from past years because we want it to be emblazoned in everybody's mind. There are two revenue goals. One is for our marketplace, and one is for our software products. And then the third is to delight our customers in every interaction. And that is really a hallmark of the Priori approach, whether you're interacting with our talent marketplace or with our other technology tools. And that's feedback that we get from our clients, from our law firms, from everyone who works with us all the time. And so we really want that to be a motivating sort of hallmark of Priori, in addition to achieving the revenue goals.
That makes a ton of sense. And speaking of KPIs, which KPIs do you think your clients care most about when they're evaluating Priori, whether it be impact, cost, speed, maybe something else?
I mean, I'll jump in on the product side. I think our goal, it's a pretty flexible product. Obviously, legal span management is one of the things we do best, and that matters a lot as a KPI to folks. But people are here also to just build efficiency into teams, to use the software to accomplish change management. And I think one of that sort of like delighting the customers is helping them understand how they can use us to achieve multiple kinds of goals.
And are you finding that clients are generally trying to shift legal work away from big law?
No. I wouldn't. I think that companies are trying to optimize their outside counsel spending and make it more predictable. And that means a couple of different things. We see a huge movement toward AFAs and away from the billable hour. I don't know whether the reckoning is nigh. It's been talked about since we got into legal tech, which is longer ago than I care to share. But I think that is one of the key drivers of using our software, AFAs. Number two, it is making, and as maybe a sub bullet, like making outside counsel spending more predictable and reducing surprises. Number three, it is making sure you're getting the best and most efficient representation so that you don't find that at your company someone is using 7 different law firms for similar cases where there'd be real benefit to consolidating and collective knowledge. And then I think there's an element of right sourcing too, moving work away from big law firms. But we see it as a constellation around optimizing outside counsel spending and making sure you're making the right decisions rather than moving work away from big law necessarily, or any one of those trends. It's really about the overall picture.
So it sounds like it's a little bit more about predictability than just cost, for example.
I think also, sorry, go ahead, Bash. It's important. I was going to say, I think it's like systematizing it, right? It's making and enforcing a series of decisions that mean you're getting the right counsel for every matter, and doing that in a way that the full organization can take advantage of and understand.
Right. And your software helps do exactly that, right?
Yeah, exactly. The software is that sort of organizational layer piece, and then the marketplace again helps with that right sourcing motion.
And what challenges or friction points do you think are making legal innovation difficult inside large organizations? You've been working with large organizations for some time now, and you kind of have that inside view since you're, so closely integrated with at least the outside counsel side?
Yeah, I think that the biggest impediment to change is leadership. I think that the difference between legal teams that are innovating quickly and ones that aren't are that, and I actually like don't have a platonic view of like whether like change is inherently good for what it's worth within the legal department. But I think that legal departments that are changing quickly are doing so because they have a very clear mandate from the C-suite, from the CLO, that trickles down into the KPIs of each individual attorney, and of the legal operations team. So everybody is aligned in that direction. And, by that I mean, if you're an individual practicing attorney and your only KPI is the result of to get the best representation, then you're not going to be motivated to experiment. And I'm saying this a little flippantly, but like you're not going to be motivated to experiment with new kinds of technology. But so you have to be incentivized to do that. And when I say like I don't necessarily have a platonic view that change is good, we run a legal technology company, so please buy services and technology from us. But what I think that the corporate legal team should not necessarily be the first locus or the first mover of change, particularly as it relates to technology. I think it's much more appropriate for law firms where they're in the middle of a sort of a generational existential crisis with AI, whereas corporate legal teams are behemoths to move and change, and I'm not sure they're benefited from being the first movers in a lot of different areas. They're really benefited from being like the second movers,
Right.
but I think it's not a like change is good, dinosaurs are bad kind of dichotomy.
Mirra, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I'm also going to start by saying we're a technology company by our software, but I do think that one sort of barrier to change is there are, so many different kinds of technologies, and and they sort of overlap, and it's a big constellation, and a lot of them in a ideal world could play nicely together, but aren't necessarily built that way. And I think there is some fatigue of asking people to learn one point solution and another if those point solutions don't interact, and don't make it easy to move from workflow to workflow. And so that's something we think a lot about in terms of how to be, recognizing that we have a pretty broad mandate, but we exist in a legal ecosystem that is not just theoretical on somebody's, idea board for how they want to run their legal department, but somebody's day-to-day job. And so I think for legal technology companies, figuring out how you exist within that ecosystem and making it really easy for people to pull data from place to place so that they can move seamlessly through it is really important. Otherwise, it's just sort of a mass of different technologies that people have to learn and navigate separately.
Yeah, I think interoperability is very important over the next few years. And given your perspectives that this is going to come from leadership when we talk about real change, and then also that maybe law firms might make more sense to lead the charge. How do you envision legal operations teams then evolving in the next 5 to 10 years, and how is Priori kind of helping prepare for that?
Yeah, we work very closely with our legal operations friends and sort of see them. I think legal operations is at a crossroads. That was the title of a panel we did earlier, two panels actually we did earlier this spring. But I think that from what we're seeing, legal operations has a real opportunity to be able to be the leaders of this generational change. And there's also a chance that they're pretty left behind in how the corporate dynamics shift. And so we are hoping to be a real resource and partner to legal operations to help position them as the owners and leaders of the new AI, AI native legal department, as opposed to going sort of back into the back office.
And taking one step above that, I guess, when you think about the legal services marketplace as a whole, where do you think that's going in the next 5 to 10 years? Crystal ball.
Just a easy
question, Casey.
So I'm happy to take the first stab at it, but I think this is one worth various predictions. There's obviously a lot of talk, and a lot of surveys have said that the prediction is that more work will go in-house and that work will be taken away from outside counsel. I think that the pictures are like a little bit more complicated than that. One thing that I think this has been my point for the last couple of years, so I will repeat it again here, which is that I really believe that AI is going to increase the overall quantum of legal work. Lawyers might be able to work more efficiently, but if any consumer or business in America can file a lawsuit by clicking a couple buttons, and that is going to lower the barrier to entry for lawsuits and increase the overall burden on our court system. And I don't think it's tomorrow that AI lawyers are going in front of AI judges. And frankly, I really, really hope that's not the case. So I think we're going to need more law and more lawyers everywhere. And that's just one example of how I think this is going to happen. I think we do see AI somewhat collapsing the distinction between various labor pools. And we really think the future is flexible. And what we're seeing is, a real movement within flexible talent to have AI enablement and have pools of lawyers who can scale up and scale down within various departments. And I don't know that the law firm is going to exist in the same form, or even the in-house team is going to exist in the same form.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with. Sorry, go ahead, Casey.
I was going to say, please add to whatever you'd like.
I mean, I agree with everything Basha said. I think there are big questions about how you train lawyers to have the judgment to leverage AI and to take on all this work that is going to start at a different place because of AI. That's not so much a question for a legal technology question, but I think it is a big question for certainly law schools and law firms in terms of how you get people to the judgment. But I think human judgment will certainly be something that's formed in conversation with AI, but that is incredibly valuable and will remain incredibly valuable in the legal profession. As Basha said, I very much hope that human judgment will stay a part of the legal system. Obviously, there's futures where people imagine that being less so, but I am hoping it does. That's a different kind of question, I think. But I think where there is human judgment, that the profession of law will shift. But I do think the actual work volume will stay very high.
Yeah, I appreciate both of those perspectives. Basha, I think you said it's more complicated than maybe we're reading on LinkedIn, for example. I don't think that it's necessarily binary, and I like the call out that the future can be flexible. It's really hard to make predictions. Maybe there's a world where there's a lot more legal work, but if you've got AI on both sides, maybe things get simpler and there's actually less, and it's really hard to know. Like you said, maybe the law gets more complicated. Also, maybe it gets more simple. It's just very hard to know. So if you do find your crystal ball, please send it my way, because that would make my job a lot easier as well.
I also think, Casey, like, you have a role to play here too, as do we, right? There's some, to Basha's Future's flexible point, it matters a great deal how companies are building with this technology, how you guys are investing against this technology. And I think there's agency in that, as much as there is anything else.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that leads me right into sort of last question is, there are people who are saying that legal tech is getting crowded. I would love your perspective on whether you feel like that's true or where we are in the spectrum of legal tech evolution.
Well, it's definitely applicable. Beyond a doubt, a shadow of a doubt in my mind. But I don't think it's crowded, if that makes sense. Like, I think that there is so much room for so many legal tech solutions that work in a future that hasn't arrived yet. We don't even know what that's going to be. But do I think that there's overvaluation happening with VCs coming into the space who don't know anything about it, with a lot of wrappers on top of OpenAI and Anthropic and other solutions? Yeah, I absolutely do. And I think that a lot of the companies that everyone thinks are going to be winners today are not going to be here tomorrow. But I don't think the space is crowded.
I mean, I think. Sorry, go ahead, Casey.
No, I was just say we agree. I don't think it's too crowded. There is a lot of money coming into the space, to your point, but that's not the same thing. I know that those two are often conflated a bit, and agree that the winners list hasn't been set in stone yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's obviously different from when we started, but it can't be a bad thing that a lot of money is flowing into legal tech. I remember, early when we started, a fairly well-known, well-funded company failed. And everyone said, like, is this the end of legal tech? And you're like, no, this is actually like a functioning ecosystem where some winners win and some people you thought were winners turn out to, and you keep investing and build and you get better companies. So I think it definitely is an evolution. There's definitely a lot of noise. There's work to be done, I'm sure, on the investment side, sort of filtering through that, and certainly on the corporate side, making sure that you're building for customers and not for noise. But it just feels like an evolution to us, where you do have to do a little bit more of that sort of filtering narrative work.
Yeah, definitely. And to your point, there's still so much to be innovated within legal, so lots of room to grow. So we're excited as well. Before we jump, I would love to hear what should we be on the lookout coming from Priori?
So much. But just stay on the lookout. We have a lot of really exciting news coming, in terms of product development, in terms of partnerships, in terms of our brand new refreshed client advisory board, which will probably be out in the open before this episode airs. But we have a chock full back half of this year.
Great. Well, really appreciate you all spending time with me today. You're so thoughtful as always, and you've been doing this for some time, and so I think your perspective is super valuable. And looking forward to seeing what's next.
So great to talk to you, Casey, as always. Thanks for having me.